This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I got 6 o'clock. We'll start this meeting. Would everybody please rise and stay standing? We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Caldwell, would you grace us with an invocation, please?
Dear most gracious Heavenly Father God, as always we thank you, dear Lord, for getting everybody here safe. Pray, Father, that everything done here tonight will be in accordance with your will, that you will guide all the decisions that have to be made, dear Lord, and that they will be for the betterment of the town and will fulfill your purpose and plan. Pray that the meeting will go quietly, that the meeting will go really peacefully, dear Lord, but it will be very productive. Pray that when it is over, all will return home safe and sound. In Jesus' holy and precious name we pray.
Amen.
If you would, remain standing, we'll have a moment of silence for our neighbors who may have passed away. We have Randy Seigler and Susan Haynes, who's the mother of Heather Granger, who's on our board of adjustments. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Make sure you got your phones off or on vibrate. At this time, I'll ask the board if there's anybody that has any conflict of interest with anything that's on the agenda tonight, please let it be known now. Also like to acknowledge Ms. Walter in the room, who is our county commissioner-elect. Thank you for joining us this evening. All right. First up, the adoption of the agenda as it is.
Motion to adopt.
Okay, second.
A second.
In favor? All right, then we have public comment. Do we have anybody signed up to speak tonight? And next up is the consent agenda minus 8B. We're going to table that till next month. So pretty much the minutes, approving the minutes.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay, have a second. Next up is the quarterly report. Scylla, come on up.
How you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Chief?
So we've got our quarterly report for the police department this quarter, the second quarter. Significant accomplishments this month, and I'm going to have to read off my sheet because my eyes are not that big anymore. So this month we started full-time patrol coverage, was increased with the transfer of Master Patrol Officer DiStefano to patrol. Police Officer Jose Peralta was sworn in and started and completed field training. Reserve Officer Sandra DeLorme was sworn in. Part-time officers Wilkie and Sutphin began assisting with weekend patrol shifts on Friday and Saturday nights. We have new mobile data terminals in the police cars, and they went into service last week. New patrol rifles were purchased and issued to the officers, pending qualifications which should take place in the next 2 weeks. And the officers are continuing completing their annual in-service training courses. Total calls for service for the second quarter, total activity is 1,913. Directed patrols were 4,605. That includes park patrols, business checks, residential checks, traffic enforcement operations that are targeted for certain streets. We collected 840 traffic stops, 42 traffic investigations, and issued or arrested 327 people versus arrest or citation. And then mutual aid requests. Responded 25 mutual aid requests outside of Cape Carteret, assisted fire and EMS 38 times, and we requested mutual aid assistance 3 times. One of those in Swansboro for pursuit, Emerald Isle came over and assisted an officer on the disturbance, and then the sheriff's office took a disturbance while we were at the jail. Yeah, that's it. If y'all have any questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Everybody's doing a great job.
This back to where this goes.
I know it's got to be hot out there. All right, next up is the ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance to clarify electric utility setback requirements. Frank?
Thank you, Mayor Baker, Commissioners. As you recall, the board reviewed this item at your meeting last month. We did include additional language to address the board's concern. If you look at item G4, there's essentially a statement included in the ordinance amendment that essentially says that approval of a fence permit does not guarantee compliance with applicable easements and/or restrictive covenants, and property owners are encouraged to consult with appropriate regulating entities. We've added that language just to reinforce the notion that property owners are still required to comply with any covenants or easements that might exist. One thing that we did do is went back through all of the covenants in the affected area, which is pretty much the old Cape Carteret area of town. I included an excerpt from the covenants of one of those 5 neighborhoods, or one of those 5 subdivisions in your agenda packet. It essentially says the same thing in each one of those, that it is 10 foot off of the lot line. So that is consistent with the proposed ordinance amendment that would essentially require all fences to be 10 feet away from any overhead utility lines. We did want to include the disclaimer language that I just referenced in case there's something, some oddball out there or some other provision that we've missed, but we believe that all of them are a total of 20 feet, 10 feet on each property owner. So I hope that that will address the board's concern. The town attorney has reviewed that additional language. As we discussed at your meeting last month, it essentially is just put in place or recommended to clarify the requirements for our property owners so that we can keep all fences an ample distance away from the power lines to make it safer, more efficient, quicker, easier for the power company to repair any damaged lines. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Certainly the town attorney can comment on the new language as well, and look forward to your questions.
Any questions for Frank? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the UDO to clarify electric utility setback requirements as outlined.
Okay. A second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? All right, next up is resolution authorizing construction contract for Cape Carteret Trail segment NC 58.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Commissioners, really pleased to present this resolution for your consideration tonight. The resolution, if adopted, would authorize a contract with Coastline Contracting Incorporated, based out of Castle Hayne, for the construction of a 6/10 mile segment of the Cape Carteret Trail. That segment is along Highway 58, essentially from where the current path terminates near McDaddy's up to and across the southern portion of the 100 Taylor Notion Road property that the town still owns at this point. The total amount of the contract is $225,888. It does include construction of a new path, 12-foot wide, 6-inch deep rock base, 10-foot wide asphalt path, 1.5-inch overlay. It also includes the replacement and relocation of 6 existing driveway culverts along the route. It also includes constructing or relocating the existing ditch feature so that is moved between the bike path and the travel lane on Highway 58. There's an aerial photo graphic included in your packet that shows the approximate location. There's also an excerpt of the construction plans included in your packet. Generally speaking, the path is at least 25 feet away from the northbound travel lane of Highway 58. It does kind of curve back in near Mac Daddy's to tie in with the existing path, so it gets up around 50 feet away from the roadway at that location. The entire project is actually pretty simple as these projects go. It's being constructed entirely in the Highway 58 right of way and also on the easement that the town has on 100 Taylor Notion Road. It's being constructed in areas that have previously been cleared, so there's really no tree removal involved in the project. There may be some pruning of some limbs and some particular areas just to make it fit a little bit better. But a pretty straightforward project, same specs, same requirements as previous segments of the path. As outlined in the written materials, I invited a total of 7 different contractors to provide bids for the project. We received 2 bids. One of the requirements was a site visit with me along the route of the project. I conducted 6 site visits. Ultimately received bids from 2 companies, Coastline Contracting and Harbor Contracting. Coastline is the low bidder, $225,888. That is consistent with my internal estimates for the project. There are sufficient funds available in the capital project budget ordinance established for the project. If the board awards the contract, I expect that we'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of around $250,000 available for the final half-mile segment along Taylor Notion Road. If the board approves this construction contract, I expect that this project would be constructed in September with work starting immediately after Labor Day and should be complete by the end of September. I think in no case would it be beyond the end of October. I guess we'll see how weather goes and God forbid, hopefully no hurricanes affect us during that time. So pretty simple, straightforward project, probably a 3 or 4 week construction period. My intent, once this contract is awarded and we get things rolling, is to solicit informal bids for the remaining half-mile segment along Taylor Notion Road, and hopefully present a construction contract recommendation to the board, perhaps at your August meeting, more likely your September meeting, and have that work occur right after this work in September, with a goal to have everything completed certainly by the end of the calendar year, if not sooner than that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the project. Again, really happy to be at this stage and presenting the contract recommendation to the board. Look forward to getting the project completed and the full loop around the triangle. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
So nobody else bid except for the 2? Nobody else?
Just the 2 companies bid. Like I said, I did conduct a site visit with 4 other contractors. I know that one of those contractors actually was on vacation when the bids were due. Another one was actually sick. Bids were due. Ultimately, I was very pleased with the low bid and pleased that it's within our budget and felt comfortable taking this recommendation forward to the board.
He's doing 8 inches of stone and 1.5 inches layover.
6 inches of rock base, 12 foot wide, and then 1.5 inches overlay, 10 foot wide.
Were there any specs? I can't read the specs from the engineers, so was that one was specs?
Yeah, there's about a 165-page document that includes all of the plans and specs. For brevity, I just included the excerpts from this segment in here, but that's all outlined.
Okay, just wondering because I couldn't read it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry we didn't get more bids because there's such a dramatic difference between the 2. I mean,
yeah, I was concerned about that when I reviewed the bids initially, but I had a detailed conversation with the principal at Coastline Contracting. I feel confident that he understands the requirements and has incorporated all of the required elements in the contract. And obviously, I'll be working closely with their team to make sure they build it to the town specs.
is there any required performance bond on his part?
So, initially I indicated that a performance bond and a payment bond would be required. The reason for that is that the statutes require that if the project exceeds $300,000. This project, the contract amount comes in at about a little more than 225,000. I will likely waive that requirement because it came in below the threshold included in the statutes.
I'd like to see a performance bond, Frank, only because of what's going on with his company down east with the failing the pavement down there, and it's not even 3 months old. He's had to replace it 3 times, I'm told. So I understand he did a nice job over there on Pine Lakes Road, but I mean, I think we need to cover our backside. And I don't know how much a performance bond would be, but I mean, you're looking at a difference of $200,000+ between the two vendors.
Yeah, so we certainly can require the performance bond and the payment bond, and that was outlined in the specifications. So I understand your concern, and we will do that.
Okay, thank you.
We made all our legal requirements, given we only had 2 respondents.
Yeah, just with this level, it's just informal bidding.
Hey, Frank, on the section of this proposed trail that cuts across the easement we're retaining, correct?
Yes.
Part of it. That easement's what, 65 feet?
Correct.
How far from that residential, the home on this map, how far from their property line is the trail?
Yeah, so it's about 50 feet, maybe 45 to 50 feet. The 10-foot wide path is kind of hugging the northern extent of that proposed easement. So we'll have probably 45 feet of width there for future improvements associated with the trail.
Okay, so on the north side of the trail, you're only going to have how many feet?
So the north side of the trail, it's about 5 feet, give or take, off of that northern extent of the easement in that area. And then the trail, of course, is 10-foot wide. So we should have somewhere between 45 and 50 feet between the property line with the southern.
So any exercise, that $10,000 we got from the gym donated for the Jack Butler exercise station would have to be on the south side of the trail, between the trail and that existing house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any reason we didn't put the trail closer to that house? And I'm just asking.
No, good question. So, there's a certain radius in the trail. So we were trying to make it a comfortable radius. If you see how it kind of curves from Taylor Notion Road over to Highway 58. So, we were trying to make it less abrupt or dramatic there. And so, but I think there's ample room for exercise equipment, as we've talked about, for the funds from the aquatic center. I think there's room there for some other amenities associated with the trail, if the board would like to pursue that.
Okay. Thank you.
There's going to be a house there.
Now's the time to talk about it.
Well, I mean, I don't think it matters. I think you're going to end up with a house on either side of that trail. So
Well,
you're
that's
going to
true.
be next to a house with that equipment one way or the other. But I don't have strong feelings either way if you think that's better.
Are you wanting to do the stuff on the north side?
Yeah. There's no house there now. May not ever be a house there now.
Sure.
It just makes more sense to me to have it on the proposed exercise.
Can we change that, Frank?
Yes, I think we could certainly play around with the alignment there if you want to try to reserve some room on the north side of that. The only thing I would just caution you about is we're trying to keep the path completely in the 58 and Taylor Notion Road right away and trying to have a comfortable turning radius when it gets onto that property. So we can probably tweak it a little bit and save some room. But my understanding, so we're expecting to close on the sale of that property probably one day next week. And my understanding is he's planning to build a home on that property at some point. Now, I don't know how quickly he will do that, but
Well,
there-
that's not going to affect our easement. It's going to remain the same,
that's
regardless
right.
of where we put the trail. And it's not going to cost any more, in my opinion, to put the trail on one side or another. So I don't want to stop the progress. I mean, we're here to vote for the awarding the contract, but I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to investigate that. Let me play around with the alignment and see what we can do. You know, I think probably the best that we'll be able to do is maybe lined up with 25 or 30 feet on the north side of the path within our easement area. So, but let me play around with it. We can try to work on that.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions for Frank?
Make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the construction contract for the Cape Carteret Trail segment.
I'll second.
All right, second. Any more discussion?
For coastline, correct?
Yes, for coast.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Whatever. All right, all in favor? All right, thank you.
And again.
Next is the resolution accepting North Carolina Carbon Reduction Plan Program funding for the NC 24 multi-use path from Yupon to Bayshore, or Yopon, excuse me, is it correctly?
Thank you, Mayor. Presenting this resolution for the board's consideration. If approved, the town would formally accept a $920,000 grant through the federal carbon reduction program. It's actually a federal program, but it's administered by NCDOT. We were awarded $920,000. The local match associated with the grant is $230,000. That's a grand total of $1,150,000. The funds would be used to construct a new, approximately 1 mile long multi-use path along the south side of NC 24 between Yopon Drive and Bayshore Drive. It would be constructed entirely within the NC 24 right-of-way, would have to cross Deer Creek, and I think importantly would provide a very helpful connection for the Bayshore Park area with Old Cape Carteret, with the commercial areas, hopefully create a better sense of connection in the community, both literally and figuratively. The project, the grant funding would also include safety improvements at the 3 signalized intersections at Taylor and Ocean Road, at Enterprise and Anita Fort, and at Manatee and Golf and Dolphin, to create a safer crossing for bicyclists and pedestrians at those locations. That's all included within the scope of the grant. It is a reimbursement grant program, so the town would expend the cash for the construction of the improvements, would then file for reimbursement, and we would expect to receive 80% of the funding reimbursed. I'll be working very closely with the contractor, with the NCDOT, to make sure we turn those reimbursements around as quickly as possible so that we can effectively manage the cash flow associated with this. I feel pretty confident we can do that, and the town is fortunate to be in a good cash flow position. If the board accepts the grant, it would authorize me to sign the appropriate agreements with NCDOT. We would begin design work in this current fiscal year. I would expect that we would complete the design work sometime in 2025, certainly by the end of 2025, hopefully a little sooner than that. Construction theoretically could begin as soon as possible after that, likely late 25, early 26. One of the things that I learned recently is that once we receive the clearance from DOT to start the design process, we have a total of 5 years to complete the project. So I'll be working to try to make that happen much sooner than 5 years, but it's certainly good to have the flexibility if it ultimately becomes necessary. As you know, that area, there are a couple locations where it's a little bit tight. If we need to narrow the path somewhat to fit it in, for example, between the Crepe Myrtles and Highway 24 in front of Cape Point, or if there's any other obstructions, that we'll have the flexibility to do that, and we'll be working closely with the designers and with the contractor and NCDOT to make that happen. One thing you,
I'm sorry, Frank.
no,
How
that's
close,
right.
how close in that section are we gonna be to 24? And are we gonna have a safety factor?
Yeah, so there's anywhere from 11 to 12 feet, generally speaking, between the curb and the Crepe Myrtles. And so we'll be looking to keep it between the Crepe Myrtles and the curb. I think there's enough room probably to fit the 10-foot path in there. It might be more comfortable to do something a little narrower. It might be necessary to prune some of the branches. My expectation at this point is to retain all of the Crepe Myrtles in that area. However, if others think they need to go, then I'm happy to do whatever others believe is appropriate, particularly want to be sensitive to the Cape Point subdivision there. So I think there's enough room. We may have to pinch it here and there. The only other thing I wanted to mention is you may have noticed that the grant award is actually a little more than we asked for. We had requested a total of $776,000. We were actually awarded $920,000, and certainly pleased with that. That'll give us some more flexibility going forward. If ultimately we don't use the full amount, then certainly we'll just return those funds or not claim the reimbursement for those funds. Looking forward to this project, both in terms of providing a safe connection for the Bayshore Park area with the Old Cape Carteret area, but also those crossing improvements over Highway 24. It's pretty dangerous if you're a pedestrian or a bicyclist trying to cross the highway right now. So I think that in and of itself will be a really nice improvement for the entire community. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Frank, a couple of things for me. The last thing I would want to get into is another trail debacle and take 2 decades to finish it. I noticed you got likely complete construction 2029, 2030. The longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. Costs go up every day. I would definitely approve this and definitely see a need for it and have a lot of people that have asked about it over the years. But I wouldn't want to complete it ASAP. As soon as the design was approved, the DOT permits and whatnot, just start construction and don't stop until it's complete. And I also would ask you, if we do approve this, and before we approve it, I just want to point out to the board, the worst thing you can do is apply for a grant and then turn it down. That sets a bad precedent. You can just forget future grants. I know $200,000 is a lot of money, but Frank, I would ask if we approve this that you approach the county. They're setting up their flush with cash. We don't ask for much, if anything, to help us with that $200,000. Is that something you could do?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly can put forth a request to the county. I'd be happy to do that. You know, my goal would be to construct the project really as quickly as we could. Ultimately, though, we'll have a 5-year deadline on it, which is actually better than I expected. Initially, I thought it was 3. So,
Well, I understand, but it's not going to take 5 years to build a sidewalk. You know that. Once you
yeah,
get your permit.
yeah, no, completely agree. And you're right, the price is only going to go up going forward. So, you know, if the board's direction is to move quickly on it, we'll be working to construct it as soon as possible.
Well, you know, and approach the county to see if they'd be willing to kick in some money too. I mean, we're sitting here basically a self-sufficient town with our own police department, public works, whatnot. We pay county taxes and I don't see anything coming back to us. So I think they should put some skin in the game too. It's going to help the entire western end of the county once all the trails are connected and whatnot that the trail committees are working on. So we can talk to some of our county commissioners if you need us to politically or whatever. But That's the only hesitance I had was the 2030 completion date. So you answered those questions, so I'm good to go.
Frank,
Yes.
I know we've got design in 2025. Are we expecting that to be the only expense that comes out of the budget that we just approved?
Yeah, that's correct. The fiscal 24-25 budget has nearly $20,000 in it. That'll be sufficient for the match on the design work. We will have to identify the remaining local match, approximately 210,000 over the next few years. I feel confident we can devise a good plan for that. But as far as next fiscal or this current fiscal year, we've got the money budgeted already.
And even if we're moving fast, we don't expect to have additional local match requirements in this fiscal year. We're gonna have time to the next budget process before we have the larger chunks that we need to talk about when we.
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. I mean, we've got to, first of all, if the board approves a resolution, we've got to go through a process, a bureaucratic process with DOT to get the agreement generated and executed, and all that's going to take some time. We've then got to go through a process to select an engineer, and DOT has to bless that. And then obviously the designers have to do their work, and we've got to ultimately be comfortable with it. So I feel very confident in saying that I do not expect any other appropriations during the current fiscal year for this work.
Okay. Thanks, Frank.
Any more questions for Frank?
I think anytime we can get work like this done for 20 cents on the dollar and maybe even less, if the county can help, I think that's a good idea. And I think those concerns are valid. Commissioner Martin and Commissioner Morgan brought up. So I think this is a good idea.
Somebody like to make a motion?
So good. I'll make that motion to adopt the resolution accepting the North Carolina Carbon Reduction Plan program funding.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, thank you. Next up is the town manager report, Frank.
Okay, several things in the written materials, just highlight a couple for you. First of all, the next Sounds by the Sound concert this Wednesday night at 6:30. Forever All is the performer. Looking forward to that. Do want to just remind everybody the planning board meetings will be held on Tuesday, July 23rd this month, so it's pushed back 1 week, and they've got some important business to deal with on the 23rd. We do have a Board of Adjustment hearing scheduled for July the 24th. I mentioned the Taylor Notion Road property. We expect to close on the sale of that property probably one day next week. And as we discussed, that's an $80,000 sale price to the successful bidder for that purchase. I included a description of the remaining stormwater locations. We've got 5 locations left, and just included a couple sentences kind of outlining what Ryan Hutchinson and my strategy is for completing that work, all of which I expect we can complete with in-house personnel, and hopefully bring all of that to closure within the next few months, certainly by the end of the calendar year. The last thing I wanted to mention to you is I'm planning to include a discussion about the boat ramp pass program on your August meeting agenda, just to make sure that you're comfortable with the structure of the program. Let the board have a discussion about any changes you might like to see for that program, so that we've got ample time to prepare for a November 1 sale date for the 2025 passes. And hard to believe I'm talking about November already, but it'll be here before we know it. So with that, lots of other information included in there. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the written materials or really anything else that's on your mind.
Yeah, Frank, can you include a set of the rules and regs for the boat ramp in our agenda packet for next month?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to remind the board that since Frank just mentioned that the remaining stormwater areas that have been identified will be basically done in-house, it looked to be a pretty significant stormwater fund balance left over that we can apply to a lot of things. Maybe even this match for the sidewalks, things of that nature. So just want to put that out there for consumption.
Frank, how's our UDO update doing?
Yeah, so I've got a interim amendment going to the planning board on July 23rd to address some of the more recent concerns. I would say that I'm probably about, I don't know, 50% complete with a comprehensive rewrite of the UDO, and hope to bring that forward sooner than later, but it's just a very tedious, complicated process, but I'd say I'm 50% through it.
How much was the Christmas tree?
The Christmas tree was, I think, about $9,500, if I'm not mistaken. We had 10,000 in the budget.
Okay.
It's going good.
Yeah, it's 18 feet tall, and it's got a star, a lighted star on top and lighted ornaments. I think it will look very nice. Our intent is to place it by the Welcome to Cape Carteret sign near McDonald's.
Similar to the one that's in the roundabout over in Emerald, kind of?
Yeah, very similar.
Can you post a picture of that tree online or on your sound account?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's it.
Any more questions for Frank?
Oh, excuse me. Hey, Frank, have you had any discussions with Mr. Swain on fixing the 3 entrances to his plaza? I mean, they're just getting worse and worse by the day. It's a black eye for our town when we have people, tourists, visitors that come there. It needs to be corrected. I mean, it's 20 years old. And, it's almost like Mr. Swain has forgotten about Cape Carteret.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to-
I'm being honest, Will.
I understand, but
It's,
I just,
I'm sorry, Mayor.
well, I'm just disappointed, shall we say, that, we've had him come in here, was it 3 years ago, Steve?
Well, 2
And,
times.
and they wanted to fix the road and then have the town take it over. And we'd like, well, fix it first. And then he wants us to skip another year, and then he wants us to give him $70,000 to do it. And then Frank was nice enough, I think it was the last go around with the paving, to throw on our paving, just him pay it, but he could have got a reduced price. But I think they just want us to take care of their problems that they've let go all this time. And naturally, that's his property. And, I don't think the town should be responsible for somebody who's not done their job, take care of their own business. If so, then I'm more happy to have the town come over and spend $10,000 to fix my driveway. So,
Yeah.
Is that all you need?
but it's all I need, man.
Damn.
But it's very frustrating that, he's sort of been the way they have.
But it's,
There's
it's
some
been
other
like
issues
this
as
for
well.
almost 10 years now.
Yeah. And he's done absolutely nothing.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely nothing. And we've done more than I think our fair share of trying to help.
He's approached the board 2 times since I've been here.
Yeah.
Asking, but not willing to meet in the middle, get no negotiation.
So we've tried as far as the town to try to help, but there again, you got to help yourself. And I don't see them wanting to do that. I hate it for the town, because like you say,
I mean,
a lot of people assume that's our road.
Yeah.
But it's not. But I can't see asking our taxpayers to pay to fix something that number one, it's not ours, and number two, we didn't have the maintenance on it.
Number 3, we can't apply any funds to the private property.
To the property, exactly.
It's illegal.
Yeah. But we've tried to help them, John, and I feel everybody feels the same way you do. We'd like to see that squared away.
Just concentrate on what we can do. That's all we can do.
And they were told to begin with, all they had to do was fix it, bring it up to state standards, and there was issues about the state standards. So I gave them the state standards. I simplified it very easily. And then they supposedly had, was it Onslow Paving actually came out, met and gave them the plan, everything to do, and then nothing.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So what could have been done for $50,000 then is now probably 3 or 4 times that.
250.
53.
Yeah, we're with you on that, John.
All right. I know we are, but I just wanted to get it out there so we could have a little discussion about
Right.
it. So everybody that's upset.
Well, it doesn't hurt to keep bringing it up.
No, it does not. It does not hurt. I think people need to know where to direct their anger or disappointment, shall we say.
Maybe we need to get Brad to do an article, put it on the front page about the Golf and Dolphin Drive debacle we got going on over here.
As well as the Enterprise Drive.
Yeah, the Enterprise Drive seems to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think.
no, it's got another new hole in it up by Lowe's on the far end that they've already fixed twice.
Well, if you got roads, you're gonna have potholes, but
Any other questions for Frank? All right, if not, then we'll move on to the commissioner comments and start with you this time.
I have nothing.
You got nothing?
Nothing to report.
Me. Ryan, you guys have done an awesome job. I know y'all got a lot on your plate, but cleaning these ditches out and helping out the people who can't quite move around like they used to, they're so happy with you guys. So, awesome job. And town working with Jamie Wallace, get it set up for Al Barnes carpet. That was quick. So, that was very good. Yeah, they appreciate that. And the Christmas tree,
I love that.
I wanted to bring that up. But
Oh.
So what about the
But
Christmas tree?
anyhow, it's gonna be beautiful. It's 18 foot. It's going right at the entrance, so, we'll have something nice to look at Christmas time, festive. So I'm excited. I think you guys.
well, you had $500 left. You could have got a 20-footer.
Yeah.
That's from Mrs. Claus.
Surprised you didn't see that.
Maybe the next, maybe we do another one and have that be a small one. To get 25
Or you could
foot,
build
18
you could
foot.
build a 2-foot platform.
Yeah, But yeah, that's it. All
John?
you do.
I want to say to Ryan, keep up the good work, man. Doing a great job. I would like to ask Frank within the next couple of months, get together with Town of BoC, Town of Pelletier, Town of Cedar Point, Emerald Isle, and let us host a meeting with the Board of Commissioners from the county. Because there's a lot of stuff going on that they're approving, like the houses up in Stella, not to mention the trailer park on the other side of Pelletier. It's going to affect us in a big way, especially Chief Silva, because there's not a sheriff station down here. And I think they really need to understand that we need help here. We generate a major part of their tax dollars, and we're not getting anything in the payback. And I think we need to, after we hit them up for the trail funds, we need to sit and have a really strong discussion as to what they're going to do, what their plan is for new schools, what their plans are for new roads, how they're going to help us take care of all of our customers. Our customers are their customers. So every time they hit the cash register and that sales tax goes to the county, I would like to see some come back this way to help with the projects that got to be done. Because to be honest with you, it goes back to when we had the SRO discussion and the woman from the school board. And I said, what are you doing to help us? And she had no response. I mean, we need to work together and come up with some sort of plan where we're going to go. Because I know, Cameron, you got 2 boys that are in White Oak now.
I do, yep.
That school's 70 years old. Okay? And are they like right here? Are they full?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I'd like to know what their plans are. And if not, I would like to have some people be able to have input with the Board of Commissioners so that they understand that we really need stuff. So if you could handle that, that'd be great. And whenever you can get it done, I'll be there. And we might want to hold it at the library in the conference room.
Yeah, I'll be happy to try to put that together here sometime in the next few months. Be a good discussion, I think.
That's all. Sorry.
All right, so I don't have anything.
Steve?
Well, and to add to what Commissioner Ritchie's talking about, the county, good luck, that's all I can say. But,
Hey,
uh,
all we can do is ask, Steve.
well, we have a representative sitting right there that's going to be sworn in November that represents a swath of our town. And we have another one, Commissioner Quinn, that yeah, you don't know him? David Quinn, who has a long family history. I won't go into all that, but get with your local county district representatives. John, as you a sitting commissioner here, is perfectly
I've asked,
okay.
and I've talked to several people. I've talked to Doug Brownwell, talked to David Bragg, talked to Bobby Ochat, and they all would like to know what's coming our way. I mean, they know, but we got to have a plan. If we don't have a plan, we're going to fail. And the sad thing is it's on us now. It's not coming. It's here. And I don't remember, I think you were there, Will, when the guy came from the EOC to tell us when 42 was done, our yearly growth rate was going to be 15 to 30% a year for 20 years. That's a hell of a growth rate, Frank. That's a hell of a growth rate. And they got no plans. And it really bothers me.
Well, when those elections have consequences. Anyway, I wanted to thank Chief Silva, especially for, I'm glad to see a fully staffed police department.
Amen.
Good pay, fully equipped. I think we're in the best position we've been in, certainly since I've been on this board, not only with the police department, but the town administrative staff and the public works. If you can only look back 7 years ago, it wasn't pretty. But this town's come a long ways. As John alluded to, got a long way to go. Some we can control, some we can't. We can certainly voice our wants and needs and what we think we need over here. So anyway, thanks to all you folks.
Thanks for everybody coming out too.
I'll echo those sentiments toward the staff and the police. I mean, just great job. Our small town, we have everything small, but they do a big job to keep this town running well. And as they're alluding to, people are coming. I tell you what, I think this past week I've seen more people than I have in years down here. This crowd of people everywhere, which is good in a way. I'm glad to see all the people coming down here, buying stuff from our stores and helping our local businesses out. That's what it's all about. I did have a compliment on our sign coming in from 24. They talked about how patriotic and how good everything looks. So just want to commend you guys on that. I remind everybody about the Sounds by the Sound concert forever. If you haven't heard them, great group. These guys are amazing. We'll be right out here Wednesday. Bring your appetite. Have the burger bus there. So if you hadn't had a burger bus, you can get you a nice fattening cheeseburger while you're here as well. And so with that, that's pretty much all I got. I'll try to leave it on a light note this evening, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, have a second? All in favor? Thank you. And thank you guys for coming here. Appreciate it. Love to see people.
Thank y'all.
See you.